Hey, Shalom, Akim. First and foremost, as always, I want to give all praise, glory, and honor to our powers. Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Chahakadash. Hey, give it double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that have taught us this truth, that are constantly ruling well through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. Hey, peace, mercy, and blessings to the beloved Akim that are out there pushing this word wholeheartedly in truth and in sincerity, that are not wavering to the left nor to the right, but constantly staying on that straight and narrow, fighting for your crowns in these last days that we are truly living in. Even shalom to the few sisters, the Aquabs that are out there, and even shalom to the Israelite foreigners. Those that may look like the other nations, but their seed line is going back into our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I'm the brother Irad, coming back with another lesson to the Lord, willing, edify, and feed the lamb to the Lord, all right? And, we're witnessing Babylon fall, and the Lord is showing forth the signs that we don't have that much longer here, Akim, as well as your little bit amount of sisters. And I was happy to check out this show with Ivor Cumans. He was speaking with his host, Alex Krainer, and he was pretty much going into some examples of how America could, bounce back. And, he was using the example of what took place in Russia when Vladimir Putin came back into power. Okay. And we understand that through prophecy, all right, this is why the prophets have been set forth, right, to declare the will of Yahweh Ba'ashem Abishai, because Babylon will not be fixed. Babylon will not endure for years to come, all right, because this kingdom must come down in order for us to enter into our kingdom, okay? Yahweh Shai must bring this kingdom down, all right? The rulers that are at the power seat or in the power seat, they must fall, all right, in order for us to rise, all right? And this is why you have the prophets. Let's get Jeremiah chapter 8, and let's go to verse let's get Jeremiah chapter 28 and 8. It says, the prophets that have been before me and before thee of old prophesied both against many countries and against great kingdoms of war and of evils and of pestilence. Okay. And as you read in the top of this chapter, okay, you had who was it? Hananiah, that was speaking false prophecies, okay, speaking that there was going to be a time of peace, okay, and Yahweh Ba'ashem Abishai's message for Babylon the Great is that there will be no peace, all right? There will be no mending or healing this place, okay, which that's the illusion that is springing forth here, okay, because you see how you have these techno billionaires. These would be the oligarchs of America, all right, that have the influence, that are pushing forth AI, the technology. You're hearing about Starlink. You're hearing about Tesla that's being built all around America, all right? You're seeing the cars enter into the streets. You're seeing the transformation, okay, which seems as if these individuals are fortifying America. But in reality, they're actually bringing down America, okay? Because these individuals that are allocating the money and investing into this technology, where is this money coming from? It's in these resources. It's all being taken from the people, all right? Which we constantly keep speaking about civil war, okay, division, all right? eventually when the people are bled dry, they're going to snap. They're going to revolt. They're going to rise up, okay? And there will be all out hell and chaos in these streets. So there will be no peace. And at the same time, you have the Lord that is sending forth these evils like pestilence, okay? All right? That the Lord is bringing this place down on all different levels. So let's jump into this video and let's watch. And we're going to grab some points out of here, okay? Because like I said, he's bringing out some good points. And, you know, again, Lord willing, this is edifying to the Lord's elect, all right? Let's check this out.
But it's come to a point where, you know, if we don't push back, if we don't demand a change of course, then we are surrendering our children to slavery, basically. And I don't think I'm even exaggerating. That's really what it is.
Well, guys, you just heard a taste there of my fascinating conversation with Alex Krainer. And Alex, it's great to see you again. Maybe give a quick introduction, and it'll probably indicate how you seem to be correct on nearly everything in geopolitics and macroeconomics, which is quite stunning.
Well, thank you, Ivor. Great to join you again. I think maybe you're a little bit too kind, but I think that you know, if you take a very broad study of history, you know, to try to understand the context of everything that's going on, then the dots connect nicely, and it's, you know, rather than this blizzard of psyop, you can maybe pay better attention to what's relevant, what's not relevant, what's real, what's a psyop or a, you know, induced psychosis, and then it becomes a little bit more easy to predict what might happen next.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I'm hesitating to say, because I'm going to certainly butcher it, but there's an American historian who has a great quote. I forget his name now, but basically he says that when we study history, it's very important not to just look at events and statistics and figures, but to try to understand the who are the groups and individuals driving historical event and what their motivations are. And once you understand that, then it becomes really predictable, which is
right. And you had Klaus Schwab. He said, "You shall own nothing and be happy." Okay, so these individuals that are in politics, that have the influences, all right, what they're doing is that they're taking all the resources and the money for themselves. Okay, all right, and this is another way that America's getting ready to fall. All right, because, you know, people right now are stressed out. They're struggling. They don't know whether if they can afford gas or put food on the table. Okay, and you got these main faces like Elon Musk, Larry Ellison, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos. You don't really see Jensen Huang too much out there, but you hear about Bill Gates. Okay, and Elon Musk was the one who was bringing forth the Doge, and they were going into all the records, okay, containing where's this money being sent, all right, and what were they doing? Making cuts, all right, which a lot of aid got cut, foreign aid got cut, DEI program got cut, all right, many other programs are being cut, and now this is starting to affect the people, okay, the American consumer is taking an impact. So eventually, as the American consumer hits rock bottom, because what they got and planned is total control. They want to control the people. All right, and this is what almost led to Russia collapsing until until Putin came in and he put these oligarchs in check. All right, but just like Alex is going to go into, they're not going to make these individuals stop what they're doing, because this is all part of the plan. This is all part of the plan for this place to collapse. Okay, so let's watch some more of this video. Let's check this out.
Which is not easy to do, but I think that with enough attention and focus, you can kind of approximate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Or in the world I come from is root cause analysis, and the pinnacle of successful time to resolution and getting a clear picture of what's going on is to go to the root cause, not a band-aid, not a peripheral thing. And what you've described there is essentially root cause, because all the happenings in the world, the true root cause of them are the influential parties who drive them. And often history kind of ignores that and just gives you facts. Fantastic. You know what I was going to start off with? I have a list of bullets here, but I was going to start off with a case in point, in a way. I heard you in an interview, and our Russia interview in Dubai was fantastic, but you didn't mention this, the rule of the 7 bankers. I thought it was just an incredible story that I wasn't aware of. So maybe a few minutes on 1990, Russia, the collapse, how Putin brought it all back, and the rule of the 7 bankers.
Okay, so that story fits in a context of things that are happening today, which are things that have been happening for 2,000 years, for longer than 2,000 years. And that is basically that, I've spent my lifetime pretty much trying to understand, why is everything messed up? Why did what we call the Western civilization go around the world, enslave people, colonize, wipe out 6 major indigenous civilizations, and depopulate huge swathes of the earth, of their...
It said that Esau was going to rule by the sword. All right, and this is why you have to go to the prophets in order to get the correct understanding. All right, the prophets that are sent by Yahweh, by Shem Yahweh Shai, okay, to give forth that understanding. All right, Esau was going to rule by the sword, and as he was going to rule by the sword, he was going to take peace from the earth. Okay, and this is what's going on. This is why genocide is taking place, depopulation is taking place, the earth is dying. Okay, they got you under this funny money system. You believe that the fiat currency is real money, and it's actually just monopoly money. You don't own nothing. You don't have any assets. You don't have any resources, but you're under a belief system. Okay, this was all strategically designed. Let's get the book of Jeremiah real fast. Jeremiah chapter 51. All right, and let's go to verse 6. It says, "Flee out of the midst of Babylon and deliver every man his soul." This isn't dealing with you actually leaving America, okay? Because Babylon is a spiritual name for America. America has many spiritual names in the scriptures, likened as unto Egypt, likened unto as Assyria, likened as unto Nineveh. Okay, so Babylon is one of the spiritual names. Sodom and Gomorrah is a spiritual name for America. All right, and it says, "And deliver every man his soul," meaning you need to refresh your mind, change from these American ways, come back into your heritage, speaking to our people, you so-called Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans, Seminole Indians. You have to repent, all right, and start believing and calling back on the true names of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, okay? All right, and through those names is where you will find salvation. It says, "Be not cut off in their iniquity, for this is the time of the Lord's vengeance." Why? Because the Lord is looking down on this place. The Lord has been seeing all the ill dealings towards his people. The Lord has been seeing the blasphemy that these Edomites has pushed in the earth. Okay, the destroying of the world, the people. and the world has been corrupt. Okay, so the Lord has been watching all these things, and he's getting ready to punish this place. Okay, henceforth, the Lord sends forth his prophets to speak, his mouthpiece, and then once he takes away his prophets from speaking, that's when the destruction will take place and the deliverance will happen. It's happened various times throughout the different empires that we have been sent under. Okay, the Babylonians, the Persians and the Medes, the Greeks, the Romans, and this is the revival of Rome all over again. It says, he will render unto her a recompense. Babylon had been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. All right, and this woman, all right, the her that is referring to, you have to go to the book of Revelation, the 17th chapter, all right, to understand the her. Okay, this is Revelation 17:1. Now, mind you, this was John the Revelator on the island of Patmos, who was getting the visions from an angel by our Lord Yahushua, okay, and he was speaking of the captivity that we were going to be in and the times that we are in now. John prophesied of these things, okay. So let's read on. It says, and there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, come hither, I will show unto thee the judgments of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. All right, and this waters is represented as the peoples. Okay, let's just jump down real fast to verse 15. Okay, because when you have the people under your thumb or your rule, you have control. All right, and that's how these Edomites have the people through their control from the financial banking system that they establish. Okay, all right. Hey, everybody is a subject to the lender. We're borrowers from the lender. Okay, this is henceforth why everybody's under debt. All right, which Lord willing, I could play the video concerning Meyer Amschel Bauer and how they took control over the banks in those different European countries, and which gave them the leverage over the people. Okay. So it says, and there are 7 kings. I'm sorry, where am I at? I'm sorry, I'm tripping. Let me jump down to verse 15. It says, and he said unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. Okay, so that's what the water represents. Now let's go back up to verse 2. With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. All right, the different philosophies. All right. Henceforth, the reason why you have the practice of the LGBTQ communities in different countries. All right, you have this westernized democracy that has been pushed throughout these different countries. Okay, they have adopted the ways of the West in their culture, and it has destroyed the minds of their people. Okay, all right, and this is why the people have been made drunk. The other nations have been made drunk. All right, because of the influence that America holds over the world. So it says, so he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. All right, and you have to understand this beast. You have to understand this woman represented as America. All right, and this beast. All right, because we're in this beast system. Okay, this is the revival of the ancient Roman Empire. Okay, all right, and the allies that have been established. All right, because you have the 7 heads, which are Germania Minor, Germania Major. You have the Romans, you have the French, you have the Spanish, you have the British, and you have the Greeks. Okay, and who sits on this beast is America. All right. This is that her. And these countries conform of the NATO, which is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. All right. This is the seven heads. All right. Which I believe they were established in 1949. And you had 10 horns, which represented their economic communities. Okay. Which now they tried to offset prophecy. They went up in their numbers through their influence, right? They went up to 28, and now I believe it's even surpassing the number of 28. Okay, but the 10 horns, just like it unto the ancient Rome. All right, you had the vassal states that were giving up their resources and their power unto Rome. All right, and this is what these other smaller countries are doing with America. They're giving up their power up to the beast. All right, to America. Okay, so you have the Franks, you have the Alemanis, you have the Lombards, the Sueves, you have the Burgundians, the Visigoths, the Herulis, the Vandals, and the Ostrogoths. These would be likened unto the 10 horns. Okay, all right, and this is important to know because let's get, matter of fact, Revelation the 13th chapter. All right, to understand what was going to take place and why things are happening now. Okay, Revelation 13:1, and I stood upon the sand of the sea, right, which we broke that down. Revelation 17:15, the sea represents the people, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horn 10 crowns, and upon his heads the names of blasphemy. Okay, and the beast which I saw was likened unto a leopard. All right, matter of fact, so like let me just backtrack a little bit. Let's go to the book of Daniel's the 7th chapter. All right, and let's read Daniel 7:1 real fast. Okay, it says, in the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matter. Now Daniel had this dream, right, going into these different beasts that he saw. And these different beasts that he saw were represented as empires. They were represented as kings. Okay, I just want to make that clear, because when individuals read Revelation and they read about this beast, all right, and this dragon, okay, they cannot break it down correctly because the spirit is not working with them. All right, the Christians call it Hebrew hopscotch, but the Bible calls it precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little and there a little. All right, we have to jump around to different books in order to connect the pieces to give you proper understanding. Okay, so it says, Daniel spoke and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the 4 winds of the heavens strove upon the great sea. Now Daniel had this vision, and it made mention in the year of Belshazzar, because when you read prior back in the chapters before, Belshazzar, okay, which this is dealing with the Neo-Babylonian Empire, Belshazzar received a message. The writing was found on the wall. Many tekel he has been found weighed and wanted in the balance. So Belshazzar's kingdom was getting ready to expire. The Babylonians were getting ready to fall and go down. So Daniel had this dream, which when you understand the interpretation of it, it started speaking on the empires that were going to rise up. Okay, and the ones that were going to rise up after the Babylonians were the Persians and the Medes. Okay, all right, the Persians got raised up higher than the Medes. Okay, and then you had the Greeks. That's why I want to backtrack it a little bit, because I read that, the leopard part of that beast is dealing with the Greeks. Alexander the Great, okay, that had 4 generals, all right? Because Alexander didn't have no offsprings. But one thing that he wore into battle was a leopard's fur. Okay, he was very swift, cunning, courageous when it came down to war. All right, and that was all through the spirit that the Lord was with that man. Okay, all right, to guide him through battle and to win many victories, to conquer and take over, which came forth the Hellenization of the known world at that time. Even our people got Hellenized, okay? Because you had the two primary kings, the king of the north and the king of the south, the Ptolemies and the Seleucid Empire, all right? Which the Seleucid Empire put major hell on Israel. You can read into the book of the Maccabees, the first, all right, book of the Maccabees, and even the second, okay? Understand this history is very vast, and it's great to know, because just like Alex was going into, I believe that that's a man's name is Alex, he was saying about going into the history, and you could kind of connect the dots and see where things line up to where things fall, okay? Later on, this is how other individuals are seeing how America is almost out of here as well, okay? So it says, I'm sorry, let me read down. Verse 3. And 4 great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. Now, I'm not going to read this whole chapter. I just want to jump down to verse 17 and get the point. It says, these great beasts, which are four kings which shall rise out of the earth. All right, so these beasts are kings that are rising out of the earth. Okay, so let's go back to Revelation 13:2. It says, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, dealing with the Greek Empire, and his feet were as the feet of a bear. Okay, now the Russians are known as the bears. Okay, and the feet represents the end of a thing. So the Lord establishing Vladimir Putin, he's getting ready to bring an end about to America, which is henceforth the reason why there's an alliance forming and taking place with the other nations that are opposed to westernized hegemony, okay? All right, because this place is getting ready to go down, okay? This is why you have the BRICS, all right? Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. You got allies of NATO that are leaving, like Turkey, okay? All right, so you have countries that are looking towards the BRICS and trying to establish themselves with what they're doing, because they believe that that's going to be the new spearhead of the world. They just even put out the BRICS dollar, okay, showing all the different countries and the faces and things of that nature. You can look it up. All right, so World War III is when America's going to fall, and it's going to fall by the ways of ICBM, thermonuclear missiles. So it says, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion, and the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. All right, now this lion is represented as Great Britain. Okay, remember the Britain was one of the 7 heads. Okay, and the scriptures go into it that out of Britain was going to come forth another little horn, which the little horn represents America. Okay, and this is why America is the daughter or the child. I'm gonna say the daughter of Great Britain. It's the daughter of Great Britain. Okay, matter of fact, let's get that precept real fast. Okay, America is the daughter of Great Britain. All right, let's just get the precept on it real fast. Jeremiah chapter 50, I believe, and verse 12. Your mother shall be sore confounded, she that bare you shall be ashamed. Behold, the hindermost of the nations shall be a wilderness, a dry land, and a desert. Because of the wrath of the Lord, it shall not be inhabited, but it shall be wholly desolate. Everyone that goeth by Babylon shall be astonished and hiss at all her plagues. Okay, so this is the coming destruction of this place. All right, but as you heard in Jeremiah 50:12, it says, your mother that bore you shall be ashamed. Okay, all right. Great Britain is the mother of America. All right. And that's the lion that is represented in Revelation 13:2. So it says, and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after this beast. All right, because there was a time where the Lord actually sealed up. The Lord actually sealed up the Edomites, okay, into the caves, which is why they're known as the Caucasians. They come from the Caucasus Mountains, all right? They're also known as inhabiting Mount Seir, okay? They're the original cave dwellers. Even Job speaks about the cave dwellers, all right? And this angel that is speaking of right here is represented as the Lord, Revelation 20:1. And I saw an angel come down from heaven having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand, okay? Representing that the Lord has the keys, or he can open up he can lock people, like he can seal you as making you lowly, or he can unlock you and raise you up, because the Lord has the power to, you know, raise up kings. Okay, right? Matter of fact, give me a second. Psalms 75 and 6. For promotion cometh neither from the east, nor from the west, nor from the south, but the Most High is the judge. He putteth down one and setteth up another. So the Lord has the power to raise up kings. Right now, the scriptures say that we're in our chains of darkness, the children of Israel. We're locked up right now. These Edomites have been made free, and they came back during the Renaissance. All right, the Renaissance era, okay, which is the rebirth. All right, that was their coming back into power time frame. Okay, now it says, and he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. All right, so these Edomites were bounded up for 1,000 years. Okay. All right, all the way from the Byzantine Empire all the way up into the Renaissance era. You can, you know, go into the history, do your math on it. All right, and it's going to be around that time frame. Okay, 1,000 years, a little bit over. All right. So this dragon and these different empires, okay, all right, that we're reading about, all correlate into the prophecy that you got to understand and know today. All right, let me go back to Revelation 13, okay, because I want, you know, the point I wanted to get is that the West has the power. Okay, let's get verse 4. It says, and they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast, and they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast, who is able to make war with him? All right, no other nations was able to make war with him. All right, so, you know, I have to go through all that just to get there. So, you know, slack it, but Lord one was edifying. All right, which again, understanding Revelation, I'm jumping around. I know I'm all over the place. I'm jumping around, but understanding that this horse, this red horse, which symbolizes a people, they were given this power, okay, the sword, all right, and through military finance, you can have great influence over the world. Okay, Revelation 6:4 says, and there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another, and there was given unto him a great sword. All right, you see, this is why peace was taken from the earth. Okay, so let's go back into the video. Let's watch some more.
depopulate huge swathes of the earth, of their indigenous peoples. And it's, if you look around, it's not like people that surround us are evil, but the system that we live in somehow must be incentivizing those behaviors. The forever wars, the colonizations, the empires, Spanish, Venetian, Dutch, British Empire, French Empire, British Empire, American Empire. What motivates this? What incentivizes this process, and where does it come from? And I kind of worked it out to the. It seems to always stem from the money lending oligarchies. Since the Greek antiquity, since the times of Greek antiquity, the process of colonizing foreign lands and building empires always stems from the money lending classes, from the bankers. And so I wondered why that is. And the reason why that is because they're always in search of collateral, because once they get control of a colony, they can turn its wealth, they can turn its working age population into their collateral, which means that magically other people's wealth turns into assets on their balance sheet.
Yep, exactly. All right, which this is all in the scriptures, okay? Habakkuk, let's get Habakkuk first. All right, the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2 and verse 5. It says, let's start at verse 4. Habakkuk 2 and 4, behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. This is what we're living off of, his faith, okay? But these Edomites, their soul is not right in them, all right? This is why the world is upside down, okay? And people are constantly getting poorer and poorer because he's robbing everybody. You want to talk about people are thieves, all right? He's the biggest thief on the earth. It says, yeah, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as deaf, and cannot be satisfied, but gather unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people, right? This man can't be satisfied. No matter how much he acquires, it's not enough. It says, shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his? How long to him that ladeth himself with thick clay? Okay, and we go into this thick clay because it deals with the debt. All right, this is how he gets countries to bend the knee, is through debt. All right. And I believe Russia was buying certain countries' debt, relieving them of that burden, which made them give their power unto the Russians, okay? Allegiance unto them, all right? It says Ibatyat in the Hebrew, which means weight of pledges, heavy debt, okay? So that thick clay is the heavy debt, the burden that they put over the people, okay, to make them surrender their power, all right? And the scriptures say that we are, let me see, to the lender. Yep. Proverbs 22 and 7. The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. You see, all right. The borrower is servant to the lender. This is he wants to put you in a borrower's position to where you become a servant, and they can do whatever they want with their servants. Okay. All right. And henceforth, this is what Russia stopped those oligarchies from doing in his country, because they were treating the working class wrongfully. Okay. They were just taking the resources. They had political ties. They were abusing their power. Okay. This is what they're doing here in the West. And this is the reason why things are out of course, which is only going to further lead to the destruction of this place. Okay. So while it seems like that technology is innovating, it's reforming, it's making Babylon stronger and better, it's actually in the long run making this place worse.
And they are profit-making assets, because what do they do with that collateral? Well, they lend money to their clients in order to go and develop whatever, natural gas, coffee plantations, tobacco plantations, crude oil, whatever it happens to be, or gold, diamonds. And then their clients, which are business companies, right? They go to those lands, they employ the local populace to develop all these resources, and then they turn them into financialized flows that ultimately are shaped as basically as a conveyor belt that extracts wealth from wherever they can take it to their own banks, be it Wall Street, London, Paris, whatever else. And as it happens, if you study all these historical episodes, the Roman Empire, Sparta, Athens, Venice, Venetian Empire, Dutch Empire, Spanish Empire, British Empire, the American Empire, you see that the syndrome is always that it creates mayhem abroad, and at the same time it creates misery at home. Because even when these empires are at their zenith of power, the local population at home lives pretty much a life of misery. Like if you look at the U.S. cities today, so you could say that the United States is this empire today. You look at the U.S. cities, and they're gutted. They're like dystopian places of misery and illness and homelessness and poverty and so forth. And if you go back to Victorian era of the British Empire, the same is true of life in Britain. And then you go to Italy during the Lombard banking period, same thing: misery, plagues, internal strife, and so forth. So it's always the same thing. But so what is the solution? And we have one very, very recent example was Russia during the 1990s, because when Russia was transitioning from the communist system to the capitalist system, all of a sudden, very quickly, the bulk of the ownership, something like 60% of the GDP, fell into the hands of a small group of oligarchs. And the most powerful of these oligarchs were the group of 7 bankers. In Russia, they called it Sembankirshchina. So it was, that world entails the rule of 7 bankers. And then during the 1990s, in Russia, we have the same symptoms of social decay, where more than 40% of the population falls below the poverty line. 1 in 4 are at destitute poverty. Law and order disintegrates. You have fights between rival gangs in St. Petersburg and Moscow. Shootouts on the streets. Military disintegrates. The whole country turns into a waste case. And then Vladimir Putin takes over in 1999, and Boris Yeltsin nominates him as a caretaker prime minister, and the situation begins to turn around a little bit later. Putin stands for election in March of 2000, wins the presidency, and then he does something interesting in 2003. He calls all the oligarchs to his office, about 15 of them, including the 7 bankers. They have a meeting around a very large round table, and basically Vladimir Putin lays down the rules, and he says, okay, 3 key things. We're not going to nationalize your property, so what you stole, you keep. It's yours. But you have to pay your taxes correctly. You have to treat your employees correctly. Don't treat them as disposable workforce. And 3, you have to stay out of politics. And this third rule was actually the most difficult for the oligarchs to accept, because they, up until that time, they pretty much owned the government. They were boasting about how they set up and take down ministers. The ministers have to do as they tell them. If not, they're sacked and so forth. So these 7 bankers, they were boasting about having complete control of the government. Now Vladimir Putin telling them you have to stay out of politics. Politics is not your domain. This was a big challenge. So there were some court cases. A few of these oligarchs challenged the government. It went through courts. Unlike the way people in the West imagine, Vladimir Putin didn't just send assassins to take out these oligarchs. It was done in a legal way, but basically the oligarchs lost the court cases, the legal cases, right? Which went to show that between 2000 and 2003, Vladimir Putin solidified his political support. So he felt that he was more powerful than the oligarchs, and he felt that he could take them on. And then one of the oligarchs challenged Vladimir Putin more seriously, and that was Mikhail Khodorkovsky, who was a trustee for the Jacob Rothschild's interests in Russia. And there, they arrested Khodorkovsky, and they charged him with tax evasion, and he was found guilty, and he spent 9 years in prison. But that was a signal to other oligarchs. Don't mess with it. I laid down the rules. You have to play by those rules. And so basically what happened is, he didn't disenfranchise them in the sense of taking away their properties and renationalizing it. He didn't shoot them dead. He didn't imprison them, apart from Mikhail Khodorkovsky. He just left them alone with those 3 rules. No politics, pay your taxes correctly, treat your employees correctly. That's it. And from that point on, with the oligarchs no longer able to dictate policy and, social and economic development, foreign policy, etc., Russia had a spectacular turnaround. So it went from one of the most corrupt countries in the world, whose GDP during the 1990s, Russia lost something like 50% of its GDP. It was absolutely spectacular what happened there. The life expectancy fell to something like 57 years. The mortality rate were at the level of countries at war. Mortality rate was at the level of World War II for countries involved in that war. And so it was really a basket case. And we see that today, 25 years later, Russia is a power to be reckoned with. The standard of living has improved spectacularly. It's a wealthy country. It's a well-ordered country. It's a country of the rule of law. And this all has been achieved by, putting the oligarchs in their playpen and setting limits. You didn't get rid of oligarchs. You didn't force some kind of
Yep. So I'm gonna leave it right there with that. Which I'll try to post this video in the description box. But Babylon's not gonna put DJ Trump is not gonna put Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates in their place. Okay? There's going to be a constant division here. All right? You heard the headlines. Trump and Elon Musk feuding with each other. So the Lord is stirring up division. He's stirring up civil war. Okay? And there's infighting going on amongst these Edomites, whether it's psyops, all for how it is, just headlines, but this is all part of the plan for Babylon to fall. Okay, And that's just the times that we're in. We're just in the times where this place is getting ready to fall, because see how the Lord put the spirit on Putin to reform his country and set everything in order, just like Alex may mention. 25 years later, show you the power of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. 25 years later, Putin is standing as a powerhouse to be reckoned with. And that goes into what? Ezekiel, the 38th chapter. He's going to be a guard unto the smaller countries, especially Iran. All right. And see, everything is playing out beautifully. It took 25 years, but the Lord was building up Putin for the end of this place. So again, the bear is the feet, but the bear is the end of this world. Okay. And that's what we're getting ready to see. So, you know, it's like if I didn't bring out any more scriptures, but for time's sake, I got to get out of here. Lord's willing, this was edifying unto you, Akim, as well as you, Akwafs. Saying was trying to mess with me during this lesson, but Lord willing, it made sense, and Lord willing to hit who was meant to hit. With that, all praises and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakab Kadash, Brakata Yahweh, Brakata Yahweh Shai, Brakata Yahweh, Brakata Yahweh Shai, Shalom to the Lord's elect.